Hello, I'm Orrin Brazington, and welcome to the Authentic Truth Podcast. I'm your host, and this is a show about the strength of the human spirit and how to become the best version of ourselves. Before I get started, I want to take a moment to dedicate this podcast to my late mother, Linda Faye Brazington. Not a single day goes by that I don't think about you and miss you. I'd also like to take some time to dedicate this show to the alcoholics and the drug addicts out there, the ones that are sober and the ones that dream to someday become. To every man, woman, of every race and every skin color, of every political party, and every religious or non-religious person, to the rich, the poor, the thriving, and the struggling. I hope we can all put our differences aside and see that there is true power in us all coming together and stopping this division. United we bargain, divided we will forever beg. I've dreamed about doing this podcast for years, and I'm very excited to have you all along to join me on this maiden voyage. For the first episode, I want to tell my life story to give a framework about why I'm passionate about doing this show. I hope it gives people a sense of hope to see what is possible if we can apply ourselves and never give up. To inspire others with the thought of if we can change the way that we think, then we can change the way that we truly live. Now, here is my story. I grew up in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley in western Montana. Surrounded by big mountains and rivers, it's just about everybody's version of paradise. I'm the second youngest of 5 kids, and my mother was a stay-at-home parent for most of her life. My father worked a lot to support us. My family struggled with money, but we always had food on the table and a roof over our heads. Our home was filled with love because my mother was a saint. She was my rock and my eternal anchor. My father was extremely abusive. Not physically, but verbally. I didn't realize how much it affected me until years later. At the age of 8, I was sexually abused by a kid that I was friends with. We were both just children. This unfortunate occurrence broke me spiritually. I never felt like a normal person after that. This is where my avoidance and perfectionism started. I tried my best to just forget about it as a kid, but it was like carrying around a backpack full of stones that I could never set down. I never told anybody about this until I was in my late 30s. I truly felt ashamed to even be alive. This is where my collection of inner demons started. At age 13, my mother put me on antidepressant medication due to my frequent threats and thoughts of suicide. It was hard to exist at that time. At age 14, my mother was diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer and lost all of her hair due to chemotherapy shortly after that, as well as had a mastectomy to remove her breasts in hopes of stopping the spread of this terrible disease. I needed an escape. My life was so painful that it hurt to even wake up. I started drinking alcohol to stop feeling what it was like to be me. Self-avoidance was my ally. I struggled at school with all that I had going on. I had no care for school or its authority structure. I had good grades, but with all the drinking and partying, my attendance was terrible. I dropped out at age 16. At age 18, I enlisted in a government-funded boot camp trade school program for troubled youth called Job Corps. Not only could I earn my high school diploma, but I could learn a trade and get trade papers. It was 3 hours east of where I lived, so I had to say goodbye to my parents and my family. But the distance felt good. I needed to get away from everything. I enrolled in the diesel mechanics and welding program at this misfit boot camp, and I really thrived there, and I made friends really fast. The program was nestled deep in the mountains and was a fortress of trees and jagged valleys. At 19, I was put into an advanced placement work program while still a student, a perk only given to the top students. I jumped at the opportunity. I could make more money and have real experience in a metal fabrication shop before I even graduated. The excitement soon came to a drastic halt on my third day of working there. A large overhead trolley crane, which had zero maintenance, along with a ton of complaints of odd noises from regular employees, failed while I was using it. I was using it with no supervision or training on the giant piece of machinery. The cables on the crane snapped from the weight of the 600-pound load that I had suspended by it. The heavy piece of metal held by the crane fell on my right shoulder, crushing me and throwing my body into severe shock. Medics came to the scene to find me lifeless and managed to revive me and put me on a life flight to the best hospital in Montana, St. Patrick's in Missoula. This wasn't the first time I had died at this time in my life, but actually the third. I drowned when I was 3, and I had an epileptic seizure at 5 years of age. 2 of my vertebrae were totally destroyed from a compression fracture of my T6 and T7. There was nothing left but fragments and slivers. The fear that I'd never walk again was truly overwhelming. My parents at the time couldn't stop crying. I knew deep in my heart that I was in a lot of trouble. My neurosurgeon told me that my guardian angel was with me because he said with my injury that it's impossible that my spinal cord was not severed. He showed me the x-rays after my surgery to prove that it was almost like an invisible force kept my spinal cord intact while needles of spinal fragment touched it. After a 26-hour surgery and a cadaver donor's wrist bone that was fused into my back with titanium screws and plates, I was spared from spending the rest of my life as a paraplegic. A month after being sent home to recover, my mother took a turn for the worst. Her cancer, which was once in remission, came back and was in her bones and major organs. She passed away at the age of 54. To say that I was devastated would be a massive understatement. She was the only thing in my life that made sense at that time. I loved her more than I loved myself, and I would have traded my life for hers if I could have. A part of me died that day as well. I felt totally empty inside. I never attended therapy to cope with losing my mother until almost 2 decades later. I didn't have the tools at the time to face what happened. All I knew what to do was avoid it and drink it away like I did with a lot of things in my life. A few months later, I was cleared to go back to work to finish my degrees and graduate. Shortly after I graduated, I joined the Pipe Fitters Union as a pipe welder and moved to Washington State to start a new life and get away from the painful memories of my home and my past. Being in the union was perfect for someone like me. Being so self-avoidant and not wanting to stay in one place for very long was easy. The jobs I took were short, 3 to 6 months in duration, and I saw most of the United States in the span of my career. I worked in refineries, nuclear power plants, and tech manufacturing, to name a few. I dated a lot of women, but was very closed off to them. I let the wrong ones in and pushed the right ones away. I can honestly say that I never loved a woman that I dated. I loved the thought of them loving me instead. My drinking, shame, anger, and resentment towards myself crippled me from finding any real prospect of love or marriage. I looked for love in everyone but myself. I never made goals or had plans for the future. I honestly didn't care if I lived another year or not. I was a stranger to myself. I was a stranger to my friends and my family. The person I was becoming scared a lot of them away. Nearly 3 decades passed since I was abused. The event was so traumatic and hurtful that I had completely blocked it from my memory, unbeknownst to myself at the time. During this time, I can honestly say that I was not living my life. I was merely surviving. The thought of suicide was with me from when I woke up in the morning until I went to bed. Shame and guilt were my bedfellow. I was so uncomfortable with myself that it was hard to breathe at times. Although I was medicated with a heavy dose of antidepressant medication, I still had terrible panic attacks and severe depression. The thought of taking my own life crossed my mind millions of times. The only reason I didn't do it is because my dad told me it was the easy way out of life's problems. At the age of 37, and after several failed relationship attempts and years of therapy, and an inner critic that ate me alive for almost 3 decades, I had an epiphany. Since I really disliked myself, I wasn't happy, and my life was in the gutter, I thought, what if I really reflected on where my life is and where it's going? Who and what am I becoming? And what if I changed everything about myself and everything about my life? Maybe if I did that, I could become somebody that I'm actually proud of being. I decided that day I was going to stop drinking and stop taking my medications. I did all of that the same day. I was not quite an alcoholic, although that wasn't from a lack of trying. It was a tool that I used to keep me from connecting to myself, and I knew that the medications I was on added to this separation. I chose to stay single and to live in total solitude so I could heal the most important relationship that I had in my life, and that was a relationship that I had with myself. During this time of detox and self discovery, this was without a doubt the darkest time in my life. I couldn't see any color, everything was gray. My inner critic was relentlessly cruel. Every day, I realized the medications I depended on to make me feel okay had stripped away so many layers of what it felt like to be a human being. I had to relearn what real emotions felt like and how to properly process them. As hard and dark as the time was, I refused to give up. I was going to get off of these poisons, or I was going to die trying. I made a line in the sand that day. No matter the outcome, I wanted to be free. I wanted to feel true peace for once in my life. Crying myself to sleep was a common occurrence. I felt I was in an unwinnable battle. I prayed for the strength to carry this heavy burden. I became a self-help junkie. I read every self-help book and listened to as many podcasts as I could that I thought would help me. I found there was very little research in how to get off of these medications, but a massive amount of research and papers on why you should take them. 8 long months went by, and on a sunny, crisp spring morning, I woke up. Right when I opened my eyes, it was like seeing for the first time. I could see color. I felt different than I had ever felt. I felt alive for the first time in nearly 30 years. I could go into the bathroom and look myself in the mirror, and I was actually proud of who looked back at me for the first time in my life. The shift, which is the only way I could describe it, was undeniable. I had learned how to love and accept myself unconditionally. The amount of joy and deep gratitude I felt was overwhelming. I finally felt what true peace felt like. I had found the one thing that could heal me, and yet I had overlooked it my entire life. I had found myself. My true self never left me. It was buried beneath the anger, shame, guilt, and the alcohol. What I had spent years longing and searching for, I found was with me all along. I just had to search within the hard, painful, and traumatic occurrences that I had in my life. They caused me to separate from this version. Only I could heal this deep wound. To reunite with the greatest gift life can give us, I learned to be grateful for everything that has ever happened to me. I learned that I was not the victim of life, but I was a student of it. The greatest teacher we can learn from is life itself. And every day is a gift and an opportunity to learn and to grow. I learned that without pain and suffering, a person cannot truly feel love, peace, and joy. It's the duality that makes life magnificent and truly meaningful. Loving yourself is your greatest strength. Whenever my last day on this earth is, I want to leave knowing that I lived a truly powerful human experience, that I was able to truly feel my emotions and have empathy and compassion for others on this planet. I hope that everyone listening to this learns to feel the same way and can truly feel the strength of the human spirit. I'm Orrin Brasington, and this is the Authentic Truth Podcast. Thank you so much.